Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the campus of the University of Southern Mississippi. And we're going to have a little lunch with Coach Jay Ladner and talk a little Golden Eagle basketball. I know you folks have been hungry to kind of find out what's going on within the Golden Eagle basketball program. So we're going to do that today. And a lot of you have sent in some really, really good questions. We'll try to get as many or all of them in as we can as we talk a little Golden Eagle basketball with Coach Jay Ladner. Jay, great to see you, even though we're both on campus. Where you're at the Coliseum, I'm in my office, but just talk a little bit about what this pandemic has been like from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, you've been away from your guys; they've been away from the coaches, but now they're finally back on campus to a certain extent. What's it been like to go through these last few months?
It's certainly a road not less traveled, never traveled, John. It's been a very unique thing, and I'm speaking for everybody, and I'm certainly preaching to the choir. Everybody has been affected in their personal lives, and certainly and we're talking our professional life here as well. And it's constantly changing. We have to be quick to adapt. Things that may have upset the apple cart for me, like last year, maybe not as upsetting this year. And you know, not have let's just say in a general sense, we would have had our players at the 1st of June. They would have been in class. Our entire team would have been here, maybe with the exception of one or so in the first summer semester, which would run the month of June, second summer semester, month of July. But with the we would have had almost our entire team here. They would have already been in classes. They would have already had 5 or 6 weeks of great strength and conditioning in. We would have been having at least a maximum of 4 hours a week of practice with our team, and we haven't had that at all. And as they reported, you mentioned we did have 8 of our players report. Well, that's only about 50% of our total roster have made it to campus, but it's necessary. They've come in, they've done their physicals, their sickle cell tests, their COVID screening test, and all the things that are now required with that. So it's just I've had to kind of relax a little bit, and and I would have been ready to get started Monday morning, but things move a little bit slower now with all the different conditions that are placed upon not just the basketball players, but the returning athletes, returning students to campus. It's just very very different, and not being, you don't have everybody in the offices even across campus. Like for instance with admissions runs a little bit slower, and that affects guys as they're finishing up coursework for junior college and so forth. It's not as fast about getting things done. Nobody's fault. It's just people are doing just like we're doing. They're working from home or working on Zoom. That's just the way of the world right now.
All right, we got a lot of good questions here. We are limited in amount of time we have, so we're going to try to get through as many of them, if not all of them, as we can here on our lunch with Coach Jay Ladner. Here's one. Robert in Summerall wants to know how many returning players are coming back, and will you get everybody signed?
Yeah, well, not quite sure what that last. I think I can answer it, but about getting everybody signed, I assume he means will all the signees, John, make it to campus, because sometimes you sign a guy and for some reason they don't make it to campus, maybe academics or whatnot. So I'll return both. These are the players that are going to be returning off of last year's roster. Certainly Ladavius Drain, expecting a great year from here. Tyler Stevenson, who I think is one of the from his freshman year to sophomore year, he's certainly the most improved player that I have ever coached in my 30 years. And we expect great things from Tyler this year. But Tyler Stevenson, Artur Kanatzik, Jeff Armstrong was a freshman last year that was a red shirt. Denaje Harris was a medical red shirt last year. Clay Weatherspoon. And Jay Malone is, and this is going to help maybe answer some questions. Jay Malone is who we lost at Christmas last year. He has to obtain some academic goals this summer. He has to do well enough academically to get his eligibility back. So we still not 100% about Jay. We're hoping that he makes it, but the ball is in his court. He has to, and he's done better. I'll say this to give Jay credit. He's done better, but that's a young man that started a number of games at point guard. Our signees, we don't anticipate any issues, but I'll talk about each of those guys. Tay Hardy, he's already here on campus. This is the young man that played at Pearl River as a starting point guard, first team All-American. I can tell our fans he's as advertised. DeAndre Pinckney, one of the top junior college players in the country, a 6'9" forward from Broward Community College down in the Miami area. He has not made it to campus yet. He is finishing up a class. He's doing very well. Don't see any hiccups there. Although he'll be in the 1st of August, prior to our fall semester beginning, arriving. Justin Johnson, another one of the top high-profile signees from the Fort Lauderdale area, played at South Georgia Tech in Atlanta. He's doing the same thing. They're just finishing up the necessary junior college requirement. I want to stop right there and say about junior colleges, John, there are some very tough restrictions on guys that come out of junior college. It's not like it used to be. Used to be when I was coming through out of high school, the guys that went to junior colleges a lot of times just didn't, and there's still a few of those, but it's totally changed. Maybe they just didn't have the grades. They were good enough to play Division I, but they didn't have the grades. Now guys that come out of junior college, they actually have to do better academically than guys that come in initially to Division I. They have to finish with a 2.5 GPA. They have to finish, obtain their bachelor's degree from the necessary junior college. So and they have to have X number of hours too. So there's a lot that goes into a guy coming out of junior college, and that's why a lot of times we'll see guys, they're finishing up coursework here and there, and both those guys, obviously we communicate with them daily, and they're doing what they need to do academically. We don't anticipate any bumps in the road there. Tyler Mormon is here on campus, a long, nice looking player. Transferred from gosh dang it, losing me. Help me out, David. Wyoming. I was about to say Colorado. He transferred from Wyoming, but he's a young man that we had recruited for several years, even when I was back at Southeastern Louisiana. He's here on campus. He started. He looks good. Great to have him. Jerron Pierre, a high-profile young man out of New Orleans, best player out of the city this year. He's on campus. Gonna just looks the part. When you see him, you say, man, he's boyish looking, very young looking young man, nice looking young man, but long and looks like a basketball player. Javarzier Belton, he got cleared actually late last night from the NCAA through his clearinghouse. He will be arriving on campus shortly. And Mark Jackson, he has not made it yet. Now, Mark and Artur are having to wade through some of the travel restrictions, John, with that are happening due to the travel back and forth. But they're working through their embassies, and we've actually had some of our U.S. senators helping us navigate their situation here to help us get here. So, again, we think that those guys will all be here for the fall. We do have two other young men. Kai Steinman is a very nice guard from Chicago, the Chicago area. He'll be joining us this coming week. And Blake Roberts, who's a young man that our fans will relate to, son of former great quarterback Lee Roberts. He's going to be an outstanding player for us. He's here on campus already. So that's our roster for this year. We talked about returnees. The only young man that is of the guys I think that we've talked about that has a little bit of a question mark is Jay Malone, and Jay's having to get himself eligible again to make sure that or has to obtain some academic progress to make sure that he's eligible again for the fall. And at this point, he's on track to do that. But we won't know that his situation until the end of July to the end of the summer.
Here's a good follow-up question. This is from Colin down in Biloxi. He wants to know if this year's roster, which you just kind of went over, is going to allow Ladavius Drain to make more three-pointers this year.
Well, Ladavius he looks good. I'll tell you this already. Ladavius is taking his off-season seriously. We lost our players basically at the 1st of March, and when they left, I have not seen those young men again until this past Sunday when they reported back, and it was good to see him. Ladavius looks to be And one thing that he and I talked about last year is his ability. He draws so much attention as a catch and shoot guy. We've got to get him where he can create his own shot. To create his own shot, he needs to be a little bit quicker. We thought he needs to drop a little weight, give him a little bit more mobility. He's done that. He's worked hard. He looks good. He physically looks good. And so I think that he's prepared to have another great year for us. Started slow last year, but he came on strong about midway through the year, and he'll be another person that we're going to be really counting on. And he's third, I believe, David, in our right now in career three-pointer. So we expect him to make a move up that certainly to number 2 before the year's out, and maybe even quicker than that. But anyway, he looks good, and certainly he's going to be a big part of our offense, and his ability to shoot the three allows us to do some other things as well.
All right, here's one from from Robert over in Alabama, and I know it's early and you really haven't had your team together, but he wants to know what do you anticipate maybe in the point guard rotation, and how many true point guards do we have on scholarship?
Well, at this point, we would have certainly Tay Hardy, first team All-American at Pearl River. They were the number 1 team in the country. We've signed him to play the point. We feel like that Jay Malone will be back with us again if he can just continue out academically through the end of this month. That would be 2 pure point guards. But also we have 2 other young men that are certainly combo guards that could play the point if we had to, a little bit similar to the Gabe Watson situation last year where Gabe was a combo and forced to play the point. But Justin Johnson is a young man that comes to mind who would be a long point guard, and Jerron Pierre. Both of those guys are capable to play the point. And then I would also not rule out Kai Steinman. Kai Steinman is a point guard I think he's going to be a pure point guard before it's over with, but he's another player that plays the combo position. So we've got 2 point guards, and again, I'm counting Jay Malone there just because of his progress. There is a question mark, but 3 other guys that are capable of playing that position.
All right, Charles up in Madison wants to know, will this year's team play more up-tempo than last year?
Well, if there was one word to describe the way that we want to play, it's going to be pressure, and that's going to be on both sides of the ball. If I could only use that one word to describe how Southern Miss wants to play. So, yes, now we're beginning. This is really our first recruiting class. I think you will see a progression in terms of our recruiting of players that are more athletic. And I can tell you right now, we're more athletic than we were last year. We're longer than we were last year. We're quicker than we were last year. But that's just one recruiting class. Another recruiting cycle or 2, you'll see us really get to the way that we want to play. But yes, I think you'll see it. Even though we pressed a good bit last year with a team that didn't have great quickness or great foot speed, you'll see a continuation of that this year. We want to be disruptive on defense. We want to be aggressive. There's a mentality here at Southern Miss that permeates our athletic program about aggressiveness and toughness, and that's the way we like to play anyway. So, yes, you're going to see us play more up-tempo, certainly on both ends of the floor. And we do have a few more guys, I believe, this year that are maybe a little more offensively skilled than we had last year, and I think that have the ability to shoot the basketball. That's another thing that you'll see in terms of recruiting is more and more players as we change the roster, more and more players have the ability to score the ball, which allows you, in my opinion, to play at a faster pace.
All right, here's a question. Roger here in Hattiesburg, you answered this a little bit. He wanted to know about the international players, Mark Jackson and Artur Kanuchik, and you touched on that. But to kind of follow up on his question about international players, is that an outlet? Is that a source of players that you'd like to tap, whether they be our 2 guys from Estonia or elsewhere around the world? Will you always be looking at international players to bring into the program?
Well, I'll answer it 2 ways. First of all, John, from the time you and I were playing basketball, the United States at that point was absolutely the most dominant basketball power in the world. Well, things have changed. Basketball is arguably now the most popular game in the world. The NBA has actually had a lot to do with that as well. And there's probably not one Division I roster that doesn't have foreign players now. Used to, it was very rare, and they were from very specific countries. Now basketball is played worldwide. It's played at a very high level, and that's something that we will tap into when we need to. But understand this: Southern Miss wants to recruit inside out. We would, if we could recruit all 13 of our scholarship players from right here in South Mississippi, that's what we're going to try to do, and we're going to recruit every young man that we can within the geographical imprint of our university. I think that's where we've always had our strength. I think that's where we need to have our strength, and I think that we have enough players in here to do that. Now, I will say this: I think we've got to rebuild our brand inside that geographical imprint. I can't tell you how many times, and this is no shade on anybody, that we've gone to schools and coach, and I'll use a former Southern Miss name that John, you'll remember Mark Teza.
Right.
Mark Teza's a long-time, incredibly successful coach at Choctawhatchee High School in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And as I went to see, made my rounds down through and stopped in, and they players have gone here and there and everywhere. He said, Jay, it's the first time we've seen a Southern Miss coach in I don't know how many years, probably since Coach Turk left. I said, well, that won't happen anymore. And then, again, that's no shade on anybody. It's just our philosophy in terms of recruiting. We're going to recruit to the areas that have been good to us. And you think about, let's just use the Mobile area, Florida Panhandle area, John, how many football, basketball, and baseball players and how many Southern Miss alumni are in those areas. And a lot of times, because of our outstanding coaching preparation program here, how many of those guys are Southern Miss guys? They want to help us. We just got to reconnect all those dots.
All right, here's a good question. This is from Brad up in Laurel, getting a little bit away from what we're talking about, but he says he's always enjoyed, or always did enjoy, watching your St. Stanislaus teams play. What would you say was the most rewarding part of that time in your career, and maybe the most important lesson that it taught you as a coach?
Well, I'll say this. I owe so much to St. Stanislaus High School. It is this would be a St. Stanislaus promo video probably, but they hired me. I had not I'd never coached before, and they gave me an opportunity to coach. And so but what they taught me more about that school, it's an all-boys Catholic school located down in Bay St. Louis. There's what you would hear there is just so much more to coaching than X's and O's. And it's about helping young men grow and be successful later on in life. And certainly there's a very spiritual aspect to that particular school, being a religious school. But I learned so much from the Brothers of the Sacred Heart run that school. And I owe so much to them in terms of philosophy and how you go about coaching every day. And basically, you love each one of your students, and these young men are students, and we're simply teaching them how to be successful in life through the game of basketball. That's just another way that we can help impact their life. That was really the biggest thing. I was very fortunate to be there. I had some great young men, had the opportunity to coach there, and it was just a very special time in my life. I'm very indebted to St. Stanislaus and my time there, and I appreciate him saying that. We were fortunate and I had some outstanding teams, but it wasn't because of me, as we had outstanding young men.
You also spent some time in the junior college ranks. Carrie down in Picayune wants to know, how important is the relationship with the Mississippi junior college schools and the impact of the JUCO players going forward at Southern Miss?
I've never understood where I think we are located, John, geographically and otherwise, in an incredible spot. Just within 30 miles of us, Jones, surrounded by Jones, Pearl River, and Gulf Coast, three of the most outstanding junior colleges in the country. I was speaking with Coach Oney at Pearl River as we were recruiting Tay Hardy, and he said, Jay, let me ask you something. When's the last time there was a Pearl River player playing at Southern Miss? And John, I've known that since you played. I know every player on every team that's ever come through here because it was my passion growing up, and I couldn't remember one. And I may be missing one, but I couldn't remember a basketball player from Pearl River. Well, they're the 30 miles down the road, if even that, and they were the number one team in the country. They were 30-0 last year. So it's a natural, one of the things that, in coming out of our league, coming out of that league and having the honor of coaching at Jones right up the road, these are great programs. They have outstanding coaches, and not just those schools. You've got Hines, you got Colin, you've got Southwest, you got East Central, you got Meridian. James Green, former coach here, great friend of ours still. He's the coach at Meridian. So I think that us, and I say us, the University of Southern Mississippi, we understand that maybe better than some of the other schools in our state, and that's going to be a prime of utmost importance, I'll put it that way, for us to recruit those particular programs. And I welcome it, want to do it, and it makes perfect sense for us.
All right, I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. Stephen Quitman, Deshaun, Adam, and several others want to know, first, what about some renovations that are being made to Reed Green Coliseum? And well, I'll start with that one. Any renovations that are being made to the Coliseum or have been made to the Coliseum?
One of the most exciting things that happened, John, for me was, I think literally within a few days of being named the coach here, the city of Hattiesburg approved this referendum that gave a certain amount of dollars that came through for hotels and restaurants are going to go to help us refurbish Reed Green Coliseum. That could not have been better timing, and it's exciting. There probably wasn't a week, I don't want to say every day, a week that didn't go by that during the course of our practice, or you would see groups of men and women, groups, engineers, architects, different groups coming through the Coliseum, doing their notes, taking pictures and so forth, that it just became commonplace. So they are great. I can tell you this, and again, my thanks to the city of Hattiesburg, Mayor Barker, all the citizens and everybody that stays in these hotels, because we need it. We need it to get where we want to get, and our vision is to be a national power again in men's basketball. Now, I'm saying that to say Jeremy McClain, Dr. Bennett, everybody's supportive, and that's a very urgent thing for us to get done. But specifically, they just installed lights and which you go play at Texas Tech, John. We're at Texas Tech, and they turn the lights off, and they have all the blinking lights and so forth. Well, if you would have done it at Reed Green, we'd have had to wait about 20 minutes for those halogen lights to come back on. I'm not sure it was the days of Wendell Ladner and them playing in here before. I think we had the same lights. So it certainly was past due, but we've gotten caught up, and there's a great spirit going on right now inside the community, inside of our university. I think they feel the momentum of the men's basketball program and moving forward. So certainly lights, our floor, there'll be a redesign on the floor, which will give it a whole new look, not only to the people that are watching nationally and internationally, people watching our games, but a different look on our floor. So it's an exciting time, but trust me, that's the tip of the iceberg of what they have planned. And but that at this point, now I will say this, everybody has to understand, as a coach, I want that stuff to be done yesterday. We have to wait for the money to get, as Jeremy McClain said, we want to do it right. We don't want to piecemeal it. And I like that approach. And so there's a very thorough, well thought out approach that's going to make Reed Green Coliseum as nice as anyone in our leagues. And that's an exciting thing. And then the COVID obviously slowed things up just a little bit too. So we have to understand that. But you're already starting to see the improvements at Reed Green.
This is my question. As you have touched base, and I'm sure you have on numerous occasions with your counterpart coaches around Conference USA, are you finding that they're running into a lot of the same problems you have, or having to kind of overcome the same hurdles you are?
Almost to the person, It's amazing. Everybody's having the same problem. Some people tried to go a little bit earlier maybe than we did and got all their players. Well, now they're all sequestered and they have to all quarantine. And So I think we did it right. I really do. We didn't wait too late, but didn't go too early, and it gave it a chance to kind of have a more well thought out approach to it. But everybody, John, is experiencing the same exact things, and so therefore I didn't feel too bad that other people maybe have gotten ahead of us because they maybe have practiced a little bit more. That's my worry the competitive advantage thing, but it's everybody's experiencing the same exact problems.
Well, give us just a sort of you don't have to get into too much detail, but over the next few weeks, what's the phases you have to go through, whether it be conditioning before you can get on the court and practice? What'll take place the next few weeks?
And again, you're talking about specific because, again, it could change daily. But here's the exciting thing. One, we were able to get a group of guys here and get them started. And that's going to give us, when they do come back in the fall, these guys will be ahead of the game, so to speak. But here's what will happen. They reported back. Most of them got back on Sunday. We talked about the guys that have or have not made it onto campus yet. Monday, they went through all their medical screening, their physicals, their new guys' sickle cell tests, the COVID tests associated with that. And then from that point forward, that would have been July 6th. From the 6th to the 20th, they're strictly voluntary basis. There is a strength and conditioning period that they can attend. We certainly would love for them to attend to help get them back in some type of physical condition. I was very pleased, again, just by looking at them when they came in for physicals. They looked better. Tyler Stevenson, for instance, bigger, and everybody knows that has seen him play, was always finished, but he told me they had his family had set he's from Columbus. They had set and this is so Mississippi, I love it. They set up a weight room out in his barn, and he and Denaje Harris and Denaje the same way. Their arms are twice the size they were than they left. Man, I was kidding around with Alex Richard, our strength coach. I said, you see, you don't have to have all those fancy programs. I said, just get them out there on those farms and let's go to work. I said, you look what happened, but they look good. And but anyway, so they'll go from the 6th to the 20th on voluntary strength conditioning. There is a time that they can get into the pain center and shoot and work on their own and that type of thing. And then on the 20th is we'll actually be able to, which is be 2 weeks. So that's a period of 2 weeks. So on July 20th, we'll actually be able to begin our summer workouts with them, where we'll be able to practice for 4 hours a week, and they'll be able to lift weights and condition for another 4 hours. At that point, it'll be more of a required attendance for that. And so, and hopefully we'll have, which I know we'll have several more of our players will be on campus by that time as well.
Real quick before we wrap up this lunch with Coach Jay Ladner, again, we don't know what's going to happen, when basketball season gets here, but schedule-wise, what are some things to look forward to on the basketball schedule this year?
Well, real excited about a number of things. Some of the highlights, some of the things that last year we inherited the schedule that we inherited. That was already done. But, I think it's important for a lot of reasons, academics for our young men, but also for our fans, that we reestablish some of our regional rivalries. And you're going to see that starting to come into play. We were able to start we did have the flexibility to start the Tulane series last year. I know a lot of people, John, why we don't play Tulane, I have no idea. And I know it takes two to tango. I get it. But we should be playing them in football. Makes sense for them, makes sense for us. And I'm probably out of my realm by talking about it, but I'm just talking about from a fan perspective. I remember in football, we would go play Tulane, and Southern Miss take 45,000 people there. And really everybody looked forward to it. I knew as a student, when I was just a student, we looked forward to going down there. And, but anyway, with that being said, Tulane, we'll go to New Orleans this year. South Alabama will come here. Those are long time, every year games that our people can relate to. We've added, and again, forgive me from the folks in Louisiana if I say this, but is it the University of Louisiana or Louisiana Lafayette? our old USL, who we would have called when I was playing, but the University of Louisiana has now, we begin a home and home series with them. They'll start here in Hattiesburg this year. Louisiana, Monroe, long time. So you're going to begin to see more and more of that, and that not only makes sense for our fan base. It's exciting, more exciting for our fan base. It's more exciting. It's more helpful for our students. If we're when we can get on a bus and we can go to Lafayette and be there 2.5, 3 hours. And be back after the game. They're in class the next day, whereas in we go play some University of California, and we're gone for 3 days. That's important to me. Our guys graduated, and by the way, every one of our players that were eligible to graduate this year graduated. Four players eligible. We graduated 4, and that's something that I hope I'm held accountable for, but also something I'm proud for, that we were able to do that. So in terms of our scheduling, there's a lot of factors there, but you're going to begin seeing that. Got a potential great announcement coming with an in-state SEC school that's going to be released here. We hope within the next week, but I know it's right. Everything's done with it. We're simply waiting on the NCAA to give their final okay, and that we'll play one of our in-state SEC opponents at a neutral site that may be a little bit about 60 miles south of here when there's some water around it. So if that give you a little bit of idea, but I can't release that yet, but I can tell you the details are already done, and I'm very thankful to that particular school's head coach for doing that and working with us here, because it's going to be an exciting event.
Well, Jay, we've enjoyed this. A lot of fun. We'll have to do this again real soon. Great way to keep people up to date on what's going on with Golden Eagle basketball. So thanks for taking time out. Hope you and your family and everybody around you is safe and healthy, and we hope that for everybody. This crazy.
I'm overwhelmed with the amount of people that have shown interest. I thank you. I thank David Cohen for taking time out of y'all's day to make this happen. And again, look forward maybe in a couple weeks to doing it again, and we'll give some more update, and we'll have a little more schedule. Maybe be able to expound a little bit on what I was talking about right there in terms of scheduling.
All right, we'll see you soon. Again, thanks for doing this, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, John. Excited about it.
Okay, Jay Ladner, our head basketball coach here at Southern Miss, taking time out of his schedule to kind of share the lunch hour with us here as we talk Golden Eagle basketball. We'll keep you posted, everybody. Do this again very, very soon. Talk a little basketball with Coach Jay Ladner. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time. So long from here on the campus of the University of Southern Mississippi.